guys, behind me we have the brand new 2019 facelifted Audi TT Mark III. The TT has been around for 20 years now, and in that time Audi have globally sold more than 600,000 units, so it's been a popular little sports car, and for good reason. It's always been a really fun little car to drive. We're going to jump in a second to see if that's still true with the very latest one, but let's just have a quick look around the outside and see what the subtle changes are on this facelift model. Then we'll have a look at the spec and then jump in it and go for a drive. Externally, there's a few little tweaks and changes. We've got the new front splitter that looks really good. We've got these new, I was going to call them air intakes, but unfortunately they are fake, as is that and much of that, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but visually they do look good. Along the side, we've got these new side sills that also look really good. Changed the profile of the car slightly. And this car's got the optional new wheel design. We'll have a look at the spec sheet in a second. But I think it looks really good. It's always been a very resolved shape. I think the TTs always look modern. Even the Mark I, when you see one on the road today, they still look pretty recent, pretty current. So this particular press car is a 45 TFSI Quattro in the S-Line trim and the S-Tronic automatic 7-speed gearbox. It's in Glacier White, which is a £575 option, and the interior is black with slate grey. It has the optional wheels, which are the Audi Sport TTRS design. They're £795. It has a storage pack, LED interior lighting pack, dynamic road sign display. It has a smartphone interface, the technology package, which is about 1,500 quid, parking system plus, high beam assist, deluxe auto air conditioning with integrated digital displays, and the Bang & Olufsen sound system, which is 895 quid. The base price of this particular car is £37,400. This one on the road is a smidge under £45,000, so it's quite loaded up, as you'd expect with most press cars. Quick look inside, typical Audi affair, beautiful cabin. The TT is genuinely one of my favourite cabins and interiors on the market. It's lovely, massively uncluttered. Everything is in the driver binnacle. There's no centre screen whatsoever. When you fire it up, everything comes to life. All these light up, so all your heating controls are within the actual vents themselves. Same with the seat heater there. I just think it's brilliant. It's so minimalistic. Such a beautiful, lovely cabin, lovely place to be. There are rear seats, but there would have to be very, very small kids, and the driver and front passenger would have to be small to medium-sized adults to benefit them. But that's a really good bit of storage space, and in fact, when we go around the back and you open this up, the TT actually has a massive boot, so it's a usable, nice space here. But if you fold these seats down, you just have loads of room. You can put, I've seen friends that put 2 bikes in there with wheels off. So they're actually a very practical car. Wouldn't look it on the outside. Looks like a small little shell on the outside, but when you get inside, they're very practical. Such a cool car. I really, really like the TT. I know it used to have a bit of a strange image, but I really think, you know, they start about £31,000 on the road now. And I think for that money, they're a brilliant piece of kit. They really are. Anyway, let's jump in and go for a drive. Right then guys, the 2019 facelifted Audi TT. This is the Mark III. As I talked about, the TT's been around for 20 years already. Makes me feel really old. This particular one is the 245 PS unit under the bonnet, so 0 to 60 in about 5.2 seconds. Top speed limited to 155 miles an hour, blah blah blah. As with all my reviews, I really want to talk about its driving dynamics, how it feels on these brilliant roads near Milton Keynes. They're brilliant, they're fun, they're bumpy, etc. But a perfect test for a car on UK soil. As with many of these press drives, this is really a daily event, so I've only literally got an hour or two with each model, so it's not going to be too cinematic. It's just going to be me driving the car and hopefully feeding back to you guys. My initial impressions are it's very composed, extremely composed chassis, really nice and pliant. The ride is just lovely, it's supple. The road conditions outside are really bumpy. Like, I've been driving through some really bad potholes on the way down here, and it's just been floating over everything. And we're on the optional 19-inch wheels, so it's not like we've got a massive amount of tyre to cushion the ride. It really is all down to the suspension and how well it absorbs everything. Now, this isn't in line with, say, my M2 competition in terms of, you know, where it sits. It's in a totally different price bracket. This car is close to half the power, so it's nowhere near that kind of performance. But the way it rides and the way it controls itself through corners and bumpy corners, it's really impressive. And I actually think through certain sections of the roads I've been on in the last hour, I would struggle to keep up in the M2, because the M2 is obviously a lot stiffer sprung, and driving a car like this really makes you appreciate a very supple chassis and setup. You get 3 different trim levels. You get the base sport spec, you get the S-Line, which this one is, and then you get the range topping black edition model. But the sport spec comes with a lot of standard equipment like virtual cockpit, folding mirrors electronically, heated Alcantara and leather seats, 18-inch wheels, dual zone climate, Bluetooth, cruise control. You know, there's a number of things you get on the base sport level that you didn't used to get in some of the previous TTs, and it's good to see. I'm glad that a lot of manufacturers are including a lot more standard spec on their base spec cars these days. In terms of driving position, it's pretty good. It's not ideal. I feel a little bit cramped in the leg area, and I want to be this close to the wheel, but yet if I get any closer, I've got nowhere for my legs to go. So the cabin's area, there's lots of room in here, as I touched upon before. It's a very practical shell. There's a massive boot, and there are 2 tiny seats behind, which are more like extra luggage space. But the driving position isn't brilliant. The seats are amazing. They look beautiful. They're very comfortable. But unfortunately, like I go on about with a lot of Audi sports seats, they're just not big enough for my frame. They're designed for someone of 5'10", 5'11", not someone at 6'3", 6'4". So although they look good and they are pretty comfortable, they don't support me properly because my shoulders are well above where the supports are. So driving position's not bad. The seats are brilliant if you're not a giant like me, so should suit the majority of you. Nice bit of road coming up. Really lovely brakes. They look like 4-piston calipers on the front. They've got a nice feel to them. It's a really lovely car. There is some feedback. The steering's not amazing, you know. It's of course it's electronic, but you do get some good feedback. And the Quattro all-wheel drive system come out of slow corners like this and just fires you down the road, especially when it's only dealing with 245 bhp. I actually drove down here in the M5 competition that I've got for a week, which is 620 horsepower. So I was worried that I was going to jump in this car today and feel very underwhelmed in terms of power, but it still feels sporty, it feels fun. This is obviously the new OPF filtered car, so you've lost any cracks and pops out of the exhaust. There's none of that, like with all manufacturers, like my M2 competition. So you've lost some of that character, but it still feels great, feels nimble. And as I say, 31 grand for the base spec car. I think the idea with the TT, in my opinion, is at 31 or let's say 34 grand with a few options, or 35 grand even, it's a very, very good proposition. I think when you start spending closer to 50 grand like this one, it then becomes and looks a bit expensive and pushes it up into, you know, you've got a number of other options car-wise once you get up around the £50,000 mark, including things like the M2 competition. But I honestly think someone that buys this might not be looking at the M2 competition, and vice versa. Like, I wasn't looking at a TT when I was buying my M2 comp. Not for any particular reason. These are brilliant cars, and in fact, when I had the TTRS in Australia last year, wow, it's honestly one of the best cars I've ever driven. Package-wise, insane. I mean, it's crazy, that car. So hopefully they bring out a new version of that. They do have the TTS, which has got 306 PS. Let's just enjoy a bit more driving. Gearbox is good. It doesn't change down when you want it to all the time, but it's very fast and it does a very good job of being an auto. Quite long ratios. Third gear is good for high speeds. It's a 7-speed box, and actually it settles down very well in 7th. 7th's nice and long, so on long journeys I can imagine this being a really good long journey car, like almost a GT car. I know that sounds crazy because it's a little TT, but that's mostly due to the fact that its ride's really good, and if you were a bit smaller and fitted in these seats, they would be extremely comfortable, and it's just a really nice place to sit and be. So comfort, really good. Practicality, considering how small it is on the outside, it's remarkably practical. If it's just the two of you, it's a very practical car, and I know that sounds crazy, but it really is. Unlike a lot of other 2-seater or 2+2-seater sports cars, the TT with this massive hatch at the back really is a practical little car. Reasonably efficient with this 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo engine. I think now the real claim figures, because obviously the figures that we're used to seeing in the past, they were all white lies across manufacturers. Now they're having to, you know, give us this realistic figure, and I think the realistic figure for this particular car is mid to high 30s, which is really good, and what you'd kind of expect for a car like this. And I'm sure on a long motorway cruise at 70 miles an hour, you're easily going to achieve over 40 miles to the gallon. I think what we'll do now is jump to me driving the Roadster version, which I did earlier on, and then we'll come back and I'll do a conclusion. Behind me we have the new Audi TT Roadster. Much like the Coupe, it has a few exterior and interior tweaks. On the outside you can see it's got the new front splitter, the new air intakes, the new side sills, and in fact this press car has got the optional new wheel design as well. Most noticeably, it's in a fantastic new colour called Pulse Orange, which I really like. I think if you're going to have something like a TT, you've got to have it in a fairly leery colour or an interesting colour, and a really nice contrasting black and Alcantara interior. In fact, let's have a quick look around the full spec of this car. So this particular model is the 45 TFSI Quattro S-Line model with an S-Tronic box, so the DSG 7-speed automatic box. It's in Pulse Orange, as we talked about, which is a £575 option. Interior is black with slate grey. We've got the TTRS design wheels, £795. We've got the storage pack at £175. We've got the LED interior lighting pack, which is £270. We've got dynamic road sign display, which is £155. We've got smartphone interface, £400. Technology package, £1,495. Parking system plus, £395. We've got the high beam assist, which is 160 quid. We've got the deluxe auto air conditioning with integrated digital displays, £550. The Bang & Olufsen sound system, £895. We've got the head level heating front seats, £495. And we've got the wind deflector, which is £450. So this base car, which would retail at £39,155, is now a £47,500 car. So there's about £8,000 worth of options on here, which is typical for a press car. There's a lot of things you could strip out of this, and essentially it's a £41,000 to £42,000 Roadster or convertible. Couple of things I want to cover, namely the boot. Actually, I'm quite impressed with the boot space. It's not massive, but it's a nice big space. You could get a reasonably large suitcase in there and a couple of other smaller bags. And it has a hatch through there, which actually then links to the interior here. And a bit like the R8, you've got this storage bin behind the seats, which is a usable space because it actually goes left and right, so you can get some stuff in there. But that hatch links through to there, so you can open that and you know, you could put skis, I'm guessing, or long objects, fishing rods, from the boot through into the cabin. Typically Audi affair, beautiful cabin. Let's jump in. There's nice little details to remind you that you are in a TT, and as with all Audis, you step inside and they're just beautiful places to be. It's actually just started raining, so we'll put the roof up in a second. In fact, no, we'll put it up now. So the roof controls are down here, amongst a number of other things. So I've got the MMI control here, which controls everything in the center there, so I can cycle through different modes if I need to. We'll go into the menu there. So very familiar Audi stuff. Beautiful steering wheel as well, really, really nice. Most importantly for me is I sit really nice and low. For a Roadster, for a convertible, I'm sitting very low and I'm looking out of the windscreen. I tend to look at this part of most convertibles, whereas in this car I'm actually looking through the glass, which obviously is very important. Right, let's put the roof up because it is starting to rain. So roof operation down here. Here we go. So wind deflector's just shot down. Roof is coming up. Wow, this is quick. I'm not sure of how long this is, but that was very quick. I would estimate that being about 12 or 13 seconds. Now the aircon's gone mad. Obviously that's somehow linked to the roof. Right, let's take this out for a quick drive and then we'll jump back into the coupe. Hopefully you enjoyed that. The Roadster was great. It was a similar seating position, which is great in a car without a roof. The chassis felt as good and as supple as this one. It did feel a bit slower, maybe a bit more blunted because of the extra weight in the Roadster soft top, but really good little car. But I would go for the coupe any day, just because you can feel that extra performance. You can feel that lack of mass that you're pulling around. It just feels a bit sharper. I think the last thing we should do before we wrap up is a little launch control on this. It's not, you know, savage. It's no R8 launch control, but it's still pretty impressive. So we're just coming up here. There's nothing behind us and nothing in front of us. So, okay, left foot hard down the brake, right foot on the floor, bum, 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 just open that, and 3, 2, 1, here we go. Slips the clutch a bit, but there you go. Yeah, it's quick enough. It's quick enough for a base model Audi TT, albeit the 245 PS as opposed to the 200 PS version. All right, let's head back to base. It's getting dark and the day is over. Hopefully you enjoyed this sort of first drive review of the 2019 Audi TT. Thanks for watching, guys. Give us a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Leave any comments and questions below, and I will see you at the next one. Cheers.